Deep within the endless forests of Finland, there is a region so isolated that even experienced hikers avoid entering it after sunset. Locals call it Silent Pines, not because the forest is peaceful, because nothing inside it makes sound. No birds, no insects, no wind, only silence. Daniel first heard about Silent Pines while filming near a remote village close to the northern mountains. An elderly woman running a small grocery store noticed the camera equipment hanging from his backpack and immediately became uneasy. "You film strange places?" she asked quietly. Daniel smiled. "Mostly abandoned places." The woman looked toward the dark tree line outside the village. "That forest is not abandoned." Daniel followed her gaze. Towering pine trees stretched endlessly across the horizon beneath heavy gray clouds. "What's wrong with it?" The old woman hesitated, then leaned closer. "People disappear there." Daniel had heard similar stories before in dozens of different countries. Haunted forests, missing hikers, strange legends created over generations. Most had logical explanations. But one thing about the woman's expression unsettled him. She genuinely believed what she was saying. That night, Daniel rented a small cabin near the edge of the forest and prepared his equipment for the morning hike. At exactly 2:13 a.m., he woke suddenly. Someone was walking outside the cabin. Slow footsteps circled the walls. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Daniel sat upright in bed, listening carefully. The footsteps continued for nearly 2 minutes before stopping directly beneath his window. Silence followed. Then, 3 soft knocks tapped against the glass. Daniel grabbed his flashlight and moved toward the window cautiously. Nothing outside, only darkness between the trees. But in the fresh snow beneath the window, he saw footprints. Bare human footprints, leading directly into the forest. The next morning, Daniel entered Silent Pines alone. At first, everything seemed normal enough. Tall trees blocked most of the sunlight, while thick fog drifted slowly between the trunks. But after nearly 30 minutes of walking, the sounds disappeared. Completely. Daniel stopped instantly. No birds. No branches moving. Even his own footsteps sounded strangely muted against the ground. The silence felt unnatural. Heavy. Almost alive. "This place is incredible," he whispered into the camera. But his voice sounded wrong. Distant. Like the forest absorbed sound before it could travel. Then he noticed something strange ahead. Symbols carved into the trees. Hundreds of them. Every trunk along the path had the same mark scratched into the bark. A circle. And inside the circle, a single eye. Watching. Daniel filmed the symbols carefully. Definitely not natural. Then, he heard movement deeper in the fog. Not an animal. Footsteps. Slow. Human. Daniel turned the camera toward the sound. Nothing there. But the footsteps continued, circling him, always just beyond the fog. Then suddenly, they stopped. The radio died immediately after the voice finished speaking. Daniel stood frozen between the trees, staring into the thick fog surrounding him. Who said that? No answer came. Only silence. The symbols carved into the trees suddenly felt far more disturbing now. Hundreds of eyes surrounded him from every direction, carved deeply into the bark like warnings left behind by previous visitors. Daniel forced himself to continue walking. But the deeper he entered Silent Pines, the stranger the forest became. The fog thickened unnaturally fast. The trees looked taller now, closer together, and occasionally, Daniel thought he saw movement high above him between the branches. Dark shapes shifting silently from tree to tree. Watching, then he found the first abandoned campsite. A torn tent stood collapsed beside a cold fire pit covered in snow. Old supplies remained scattered everywhere. Backpacks, clothes, broken flashlights. But no people. Daniel crouched beside the campsite slowly. This hasn't been here long. Then he noticed something horrifying. Large marks dragged through the snow around the camp, as if something heavy had been pulled away into the forest. The fog moved again nearby. Footsteps echoed softly between the trees. Daniel spun around instantly. Hello. Nothing. Then, he saw a figure standing far ahead in the fog. Tall. Motionless. Watching him. Daniel raised the camera carefully. The figure looked human, but impossibly thin. Its arms hung far too long beside its body. And its face had no features. No eyes. No mouth. Only smooth, pale skin. Daniel backed away slowly. The creature tilted its head slightly, then disappeared between the trees without making a single sound. "Nope." Daniel turned quickly and continued deeper through the forest, trying to ignore the growing feeling that something was following him. The forest floor began changing beneath his boots. Less snow, more black soil. The air smelled damp now, rotting. Then he found another symbol carved into a massive tree trunk ahead. But this one was different, larger. And beneath the eye symbol, someone had carved words deeply into the bark. It learns your face. Cold fear spread through Daniel's chest. Suddenly, his camera screen flickered violently. Static covered the image for several seconds before stabilizing again. And when the picture returned, Daniel froze. The screen showed him standing alone between the trees. But behind him, something enormous stood hidden within the fog, watching silently from the forest. Daniel slowly turned around. Nothing stood behind him, only fog drifting silently through the endless trees. But the camera screen still showed the shape. Massive, tall enough to disappear into the branches above. His breathing became uneven. This isn't real. The image on the screen flickered again. The creature moved closer. Daniel could now see parts of it clearly. Long arms, thin black limbs, and dozens of pale eyes opening slowly across its body. Watching him from the fog, Daniel stumbled backward instinctively. The forest around him suddenly creaked loudly, every tree moving at once. Then, the silence broke. Whispers flooded through the forest from every direction. Hundreds of voices speaking softly at the same time. Too distorted to understand. Daniel ran. Branches whipped across his face as he pushed through the fog blindly. But no matter how far he ran, the whispers followed him. Closer. Louder. The ground beneath him became softer. Wet. Then his foot struck something buried beneath the leaves. Daniel fell hard into the mud. The flashlight rolled away into darkness. Breathing heavily, he looked down. Bones. Human bones scattered beneath the forest floor. Dozens of them, half buried beneath black soil. No. The whispers stopped instantly. Silence returned. Daniel slowly looked up. The fog ahead began parting unnaturally. And through the opening, he finally saw it clearly. The creature stood between the trees. Impossible in size. Its body stretched unnaturally high into the darkness above while dozens of pale eyes opened slowly across its skin. Every eye focused directly on him. Then one of the eyes blinked. And suddenly, Daniel remembered the words carved into the tree. It learns your face. The creature's body shifted slowly. Its face changing, stretching, reforming, until it looked exactly like him. Daniel's blood turned cold. The copy standing between the trees smiled faintly, then spoke using Daniel's own voice. You stayed too long. The forest exploded with movement around him. Shapes moved rapidly between the trees. More copies. Dozens of them. All wearing his face. All staring silently. Daniel grabbed the flashlight and ran harder than before. The whispers returned immediately, now screaming. The forest itself seemed alive around him. Branches moved. Roots twisted across the ground. The copies followed silently between the trees without ever getting closer, without ever falling behind. Then suddenly, Daniel saw lights ahead. The road. He burst from the forest and collapsed beside his parked vehicle, gasping for air. The silence disappeared instantly. Wind returned. Birds echoed faintly nearby. Everything felt normal again. Shaking violently, Daniel climbed into the car and drove away without looking back. Hours later, safe inside a hotel far from Silent Pines, he finally reviewed the footage from the forest. Most recordings were corrupted by static, except for the final clip. The video showed Daniel running through the forest toe,